Hey everyone, it's Commander Shipp, and I'm here with Daniel Chaniott to talk movies. You know, that thing that we talk about all the time, that we've totally been doing over the past couple months. um, as many of you know, we've been on hiatus as I've been moving in my house, and Jerry's been moving to Texas, so the site's been effectively quiet. But this month and going into June, it's blockbuster season, so we're catching up on some things that we didn't get to talk about, right there at the end of spring, heading to the black summer season. And one of them is a nice little gem, kind of got right under the radar, right before everything's getting ready to everything else is getting ready to drop, which is The Northman. And I just got to see it this weekend. Daniel, I think was it two weeks ago, or it's been a little bit?
Yeah, like the weekend it came out.
Jealous.
So it was one of the ones that I wanted to see when it came out. I was pretty pumped for it. It was definitely, I loved his other two movies, and so I was excited to go see it.
Yeah. So for those not familiar, we're talking about director Robert Eggers. Yeah. Directed The Witch and The Lighthouse, which I like The Witch, but The Lighthouse. I quote that quite a bit. I meme it a lot as well. Was it Lighthouse? No. Oh God, they'll be mad at me because I can't remember. There's all these basically shit posting groups on the internet, but I forget what the joke was. It's not fart posting. I don't think that's what they called it.
What posting?
Sometimes instead of saying shit posting, but it's just a meme group. It's all it is a meme group about a particular. Sometimes they'll change the titling of the group name so that it's in reference to the movie. And the Lighthouse fans will kill me because I can't remember what it is off the top of my head.
You can't remember the group?
Yeah, but maybe I'll look it up and I'll throw it in the show notes. I'll put it in the comments so then people can
text that to me. Yeah.
It's pretty good. And especially once the Batman came out, they were having a field day. They were having a field day.
Pattinson's. The whole memes of him becoming a vampire to a Batman for 14 years or whatever. Yeah.
All right. So how about some quick impressions? So immediately I was like, okay, it's a revenge story. And it's like, oh gosh, and it's a brother that killed another brother. So we're getting some very old archetypal issues and storylines here. So, okay. But brand new, like a fresh coat of paint. Getting into Norse and Viking mythology and history and pieces that I'm not as familiar with. So for me, at least, I thought that was kind of a breath of fresh air. I never really watched the show The Vikings on what was that, History Channel or A&E, and there was another series and stuff, and so it's been have a little bit of an uptick. There's a recent Assassin's Creed Valhalla that came out. Heck, even God of War's got dipped into Viking mythology here recently with the reboot there. That's so some things in pop culture are kind of getting back, kind of reinvestigating this again. But again, I haven't really been in a lot of that. So for me, this was kind of really fresh in that way. So storyline wise, some things are very, very familiar. But then like the world, it just wasn't. But generally I was, I wouldn't say I was like on the front of my seat, but trying to describe it. I don't know if I have been that viscerally captured since the Revenant. If that makes sense.
Really?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it was just a very realistic realism. I don't know anything about Norse mythology and stuff like that, but I do play a board game called Blood Rage, and you get extra points if you kill more of your soldiers or they die in battle, and then they come back from Valhalla, and all the weird religion and like human sacrificing. I don't know anything about it, but to see it put on screen was pretty cool. Like, and you could watch the film in such a way that nothing that happened outside of that realism didn't happen. It was just all of in this person's head. None of that really was existent. Or you could watch it that all this stuff happened and everything mythical and everything religious was real and these people were steeped in it. And so that I loved. I loved that perspective that you could come away from it from either perspective. Did you see The Green Knight last year?
Yes.
So I thought it brought it back to that. Where it was like one of those movies that's just going to like coast under the radar. Most people aren't going to see, but it's just like absolutely realistic, beautifully shot, like done so well. The acting was perfect. And then it was just in this way of like, I think it left people weird, feeling weird. Like I loved it, but it was such a weirdly mean movie in some ways. I think that some people wanted like this like John Wick with Vikings, and then it's this like actually interesting story of this one person and what he goes through and stuff like that. So I loved it, but it's a weird movie.
Yeah, especially the way he enacts his revenge. It's not the way that I thought. You know, because in some ways he seemed like he was going to be very eager to just get this done and over with. And then he actually ended up being more brooding and calculating in his revenge, and get to see that play out. And with Anya Taylor-Joy kind of joining him as his wife, and also like scheming and manipulating behind the scenes as well, which I thought was really cool. To kind of that visceral part again, when you see his grown up self and they're chanting him in that wolf pack,
Oh my
I was
god!
like, you know. I think for some people but I think that is a moment of like, it's either that scene or with Ethan Hawke and Willem Dafoe, with the younger version of Skarsgård's character, and he's like trying to impart to him like what's going to happen, because he knows the king knows he's going to die. So he's like, I'm going to make sure that you understand this ritual and put this vow on you to defend our kingdom, save your mother. Kind of plants that in his head. So I'm like, it's either those two scenes, because either one of those, like if you're not in by that one, or you're not in by the time he's grown up and his, like rage spit coming off from his mouth.
Being the berserker.
Yeah, it's like if you're not in by then, I don't think you're gonna be. I don't think you're gonna be in yet.
Yeah, probably not gonna catch into it. It's not gonna be your movie, but it's the. I don't know, that scene, like I was like flabbergasted watching it in that perspective of like halfway through, like in the beginning where I had no idea what was going to happen, and they, like you said, they're all around the fire. I looked over at and then the next scene when he walks in, and the coolest shot when he grabs the arrow out, like the spear right out of the sky. And that whole long take, I looked over at my friend who was sitting there, he was like the whole time so intense. I love that part about it.
A long take when well employed.
Yeah.
And I thought about something you just said about the mythology piece on it, about whether it is real or not. There's a show on CBS, or I guess now it's Paramount Plus, Evil, and they kind of, it's like this Catholic investigation team as they try to figure out whether something truly, like a miracle actually happened, or like to work in it. But they blur that line so well in that show. And I think about the one time where he thinks he's dead, or not dead. Sorry, he's Ravens. Ravens are coming like, okay, we're gonna
pick him up.
Pick him up, and it's like, and for all intents and purposes, as the audience, you're like, oh crap! I guess he really got picked up by Ravens, But then it's like, nah, you're on a horse. Like,
somebody else.
Your wife picked you up.
Yeah, the Valkyrie pulling him up there, like that shot of Valkyrie taking him to the heavens was pretty cool. I thought it was interesting. In comparison to like what Eggers did, I was really nervous because it was like a huge production, like like $90 million. I think it was like 3 or 4 times more than he had on either of those 2 productions before. And there was definitely a perspective of like, he's going to screw this up, or the studio's going to screw it up. It's just going to be like this weird thing. But like they let him go to it just like full throttle, to the point that he, like, all of his intentionality in the like set designs, the costumes, and then like the language was one thing that like, do you find when you're watching any of these 3 movies, because I find it that like you kind of almost have to just like get into a rhythm of the way they're talking and just kind of go with it and just use like context clues for like what's actually happening. Because like, to me, I think that the beginning of movies, like there's this period of time where they're talking it so foreign to our language and the way that we speak that it always takes me a few minutes to like get into that rhythm of like understanding what's happening, because his movies are just so foreign that shows like how different our generations are and our world is from something to just like 500 years ago or 200 years ago, things like that, which I find really fascinating, for that he like steeps it in that. Whereas like when you watch Braveheart, like they just use like you can watch Braveheart or like other movies where they just talk like the exact same way like we talk now. You know, it's like the Knight's Tale where they're playing like the actual music and everyone's just like they're using like modern American slang put into like A Knight's Tale or Braveheart. But this is like,
at least The Knight's Tale knows what it
intentional,
is.
Yeah.
Whereas Braveheart thinks it's doing better. You know,
Yeah,
Mel Gibson
thinks.
Well, he thinks a lot of things. So
Mel Gibson's on his own planet. He's like, no, this is my world. This is what really happened.
Oh my gosh!
Did you find that? Have you found that feeling in those movies?
I felt it in this one. I don't know if I would say I felt it as much in The Lighthouse, and it's been a while since I've seen The Witch, so I would have to go rewatch it before I could like say if it's a consistent theme for me. But I definitely can say I can kind of see what you're saying a bit for the Northman.
Yeah, because he like pulls all of his dialogue like straight from like all these old books that he finds and like all the old journals and things like that and stuff like that. So I really like his writing style in that is just like kind of steeps you in this world, and it kind of just puts the onus on the viewer to like parse it out. It's not really like force fed anything. You just kind of like pick everything up together. So I thought it was awesome. What do you think of Nicole Kidman in it?
For the small part, I'm glad you brought her up. For the small moments that she's in, because she's had one. Obviously, she's got I don't want to ruin this for the audience, but she has a key scene at toward the end of the film, and I think we should leave that, not spoil that for folks. But when you get to it, and you're like, she delivers that so well, and then her subsequent scenes after that, it's beautiful. So yeah. I think that just shows. Yeah, she did a lot with a very little. It's not necessarily that he didn't give her a ton to do, right? She's not necessarily integral to some of the middle chunk of the story, but like when it is her time to lift that scene and be integral to it, she knocks it out of the park. So I really appreciated that. That was great.
I feel like her character was a linchpin in the film. Like she could have been just a person they'd thrown in, but like I think it kind of makes people draw like how important her character is to what is happening to him and to everything around him. And she is like very much in the background, like you said, not in it a lot, but like her character is like a person in it. So like for them to get a person who can carry the weight of who she is and her character through scene to scene, or even when she's not there.
Exactly.
She left that imprint on it. But it is definitely just much more of the kind of Shakespearean play type of story. Just so much of like what has happened and like hits a lot of those beats. It's not the John Wick like revenge story, but it's like a much more of a Shakespearean revenge, just a little bit more gruesome with some more bloody sacrifices and Anya Taylor-Joy.
There's some. I will say, especially if given the period of it, that there was some restraint on some of the
Triggers.
yeah, some of the triggers, men on women
Pillaging.
violence.
They showed the pillaging. They just didn't show.
Yeah, so
it was
if you
tastefully done.
Yeah, it's about as close to that line as you can, like, where you, if you're aware of the history and you put together context clues of what's happening here, cool. And that's what, and I've, sometimes if some directors are advocating for, like, well, no, we need to actually show the scenes and things that have happened. I'm like, yeah, you don't really have to. And this movie is a perfect example of, you get it. I really
know what's going to happen. They pillaged the cities, and they showed the pillaging, and then that's what they need to show. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that would be triggering for a violence aspect, but yeah, I'd say that level of everything else is implied. But I still want to watch it with my parents. But I thought about it. I was like, I should get my dad to go see it, and then I saw it, and I'm like, it's gonna be weird. And I went with my friend. He brought his dad, and his dad walked out halfway through. I think he had other stuff he had to get home, but I don't think it was the violence. But it was definitely a violent and gruesome movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there is the volcano fight.
The absolute end.
Yeah. It made me think of, have you seen Michael Fassbender's Macbeth?
No, I keep meaning to go back to watch it because especially I really liked The Tragedy of Macbeth. I really liked Joel Coen's one with Denzel Washington. And people are like, Fassbender's is just as good. And I was like, probably not. But I do want to go back because I've heard it's good as well.
It is really good. But his fight with, was it Macduff? Am I thinking about
Maybe.
Right?
I don't remember people's names from Shakespeare.
It's I forget what the prophecy is about the forest in Macbeth. Complete, I forget what it is completely, but their interpretation of that was having Macduff set that forest on fire, and as the wind brought that ash into Macbeth's kingdom, that was the harbinger of him coming to for their fight. So him and it's Sean Harris and Michael Fassbender going at it in this burning forest. And I'm like, this is amazing. It just looks fantastic. So when we get to this volcano scene, and at least, and then again, eventually you'll be able to kind of make out what's happening, but it just starts really. The camera's obstructed for a good little bit, and he finally kind of starts to clear out and sees still heavy smoke. And eventually you're able to see our two characters going at each other, but they're still kind of keeping it up the entire time. How realistic it would be for them to be able to survive that?
One of them has a higher ground. They're gonna win. So.
Yeah, it's all right. But that's what it immediately made me think of. And and of course, some people were gonna say.
I need to go back and watch that one. Is that one with the Shakespeare? Is it all word for word pulled from Shakespeare, or do they rewrite the dialogue?
I think it's word for word. It's
Really?
been a while since I've seen it.
Okay.
I do that. Remember that scene sticks out of my head, but I don't remember if it's. I feel like it was mostly word for word.
Yeah.
They might have hacked a couple of spots.
It's not but it's not like 10 Things I Hate About You type of rewrite. No. It's because I think that Shakespeare is one of those examples. I don't understand. I'd have to read Shakespeare and reading a sentence. That's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the language, how different. If somebody just started quoting Shakespeare, I know that they're not talking the way that I talk now, and so it's cool when movies do and pull it into a new modern retelling and things like that, all those type of movies. But then also his movies pulling it back and setting it back in that time period. It doesn't have to just be Shakespeare. Eggers is making something original, but utilizing it and setting in a time period, whereas like new original stuff like that Mel Gibson writes, like Braveheart or something like that, is put back there. But like, I'm crapping Mel Gibson, but he did do the Apocalypto, which was like the same thing he did, whereas like the language was put back in the time period. It was in a foreign language, so I don't know if he's actually like doing it correctly for the time period or whatever. But that's a fascinating thing when Eggers did it with this.
So this is so generally, yeah, I would say folks should go see it. Just again, for some folks that are not familiar with Robert's work, this may not be. Yeah. So if you're like, I didn't like the Lighthouse, you didn't like The Witch, probably
You're not gonna like this.
You're not gonna like The Northman. So I definitely would advocate for. But fans of Robert should definitely have probably already seen it. So definitely go give it another look. And it's already on video on demand as well.
Did you hear about? Oh, sorry. Did you hear about the poster that got put up in the New York subway for the Northman? But they didn't put the title "The Northman" on it. They
I guess they just put
it literally just has a picture of all the actors and says the date that it's coming out. But the person didn't Photoshop the Northman on the top or bottom or anywhere.
Come on.
I think it was intentional. People are like, "Oh, look at this marketing," but I'm like, everybody was tweeting about it a couple months ago, like 3 weeks before the movie came out. I think it was intentionally done because it's like obviously you see 6 actors you really like, you're gonna go look up the movie or whatever. But I think it was intentional.
I'm glad that Alexander Skarsgård has had an opportunity to do something. I've watched him. What was it? Tarzan. And like physically, he was. I think he was one of the only things holding that movie together. And I say that as that movie was like taking on water the entire time.
I never saw it. Was it bad? Was it that bad?
It's just, it's just meh. Like he's fun in it. Margot Robbie is fun in it. Like, but they chose some interesting. Choosing, how a lot of directors will choose to shoot Victorian London and in the middle of its industrial revolution and just lots of dark and gray palettes, which is fine. I'm not, that's what I come to expect from that. That's what my image of London is in that time period. Fine, whatever. How did you do that to Africa? I don't understand how you made Africa, the entire continent, look grayscale. And if we're like, what are you talking about? Like, go look at the trailer. Go look at some of the shots in the trailer. You don't have to.
It's all shot at night.
It's or shot at night, or they're in some rock quarry. And I'm like, there's all these other beautiful shots, and that might be the other thing too. Is like they probably green screened a lot of things, so there's probably just some like.
Yeah.
Loss of depth, visual depth there, but yeah. So, but I like him. I like Alexander, and I clearly when he did Godzilla versus King Kong as a paycheck. So hey, I'm not, you gotta get some money so you can do the things that you want, do the other things you want to do. So,
but he also was in True Blood, so Eggers likes pulling old vampires. He got his old vampire shelf. I think has Willem Dafoe been a vampire?
Oh, I'm sure.
He's played a vampire somewhere.
I mean, he did Last Temptation of Christ. I mean, technically, that could be
he was Judas Iscariot. He was Judas Iscariot in that movie. He didn't. No, he's Jesus. He was Jesus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He raised. But Jesus, yeah, he was a zombie, not a vampire.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I got my undead creatures mixed up there.
Yeah, you're getting mixed up. He's definitely played a vampire somewhere. But yeah, it was definitely like one of the best movies that's come out so far this year.
Well,
I actually haven't looked at the numbers if it's actually making good money and if it's done well. I think
I don't know if it's even done better than Everything Everywhere, which is
that
not
just kind of like eclipsed so much, rightfully so.
because that was $34 million budget, and it's at 50 or it's at 60. It's gotten over the 60 million mark.
Yeah.
Which again, I think if and it's not necessarily A24's fault. Or no, we could debate that. Where that was placed, it was. Did you? Hey, sorry. Side note. Did you know that movie was shot for IMAX?
No.
I got to see an IMAX early screening of it.
Really?
And, yeah, that was amazing. And then I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna go look for more IMAX showings of it.
It's gone.
Well, you can't because Morbius was the weekend before, and then Sony was desperately trying to make any money back they could on that disaster. And then the weekend after, or either 2 weeks after, was Dumbledore, and then Warner Brothers is also trying to make any money back from that disaster. So had there even been, there was just no chance for that to be shown in IMAX, and I think that also might have hurt its chances to make more money being sandwiched in between those. Even though they ended up being duds, it either meant both studios are going to definitely try to push harder to get anyone to go see and try to recoup.
Yeah.
Or had they been runaway hits, then they definitely would have hurt that movie as well. Go ahead.
That makes sense. They would have had the contracts already lined up that they would have to roll into IMAX. Oh, that sucks.
So I think about Northman as well coming after all of that, and then we're getting ready to start. And then was it Multiverse? Doctor Strange started after it. So I'm like, it's just A24's releases in this time period were just not that. I wonder if maybe they should have fought for that kind of March, February time period, but
I don't know. I think that A24 releases these good movies now, which I think is good, but like you have Marvel and Disney and Sony, like those three massive movies that just, I don't know, Warner Brothers with Dumbledore, but all three of which, I've only seen one of them, but I don't know. I think that A24 makes the right decision, but they have to just like drop it somewhere. But they've also made these months better by like pulling those in.
Because otherwise it would have been quite a sad little. It would have been a rough month.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
but those are great.
Yeah, that's our thoughts on the Northman. Go see it if you can. If you can't go to a theater, you can get it on video on demand. Again, still love the big screen. I still think this is something worth seeing on the big screen.
Is it on demand already?
Yeah, I think it just came out this week.
Okay, very cool.
Because one of my friends was talking about they were going to go rent it this weekend. So,
nice.
All right. So yeah, we'll
awesome. Definitely go see Northman.
Go see Northman. We'll see y'all next time.
How we going?